US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has left Washington and is set to reach New Delhi today for a two-day visit. Right before his departure, Blinken tweeted, "I look forward to conversations with our partners to further cooperation in support of our shared interests in the Indo-Pacific and Middle East." On Wednesday, Blinken will meet Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. This is his first visit to India since the Biden administration took office. In March of this year, US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin visited India, and in April, US Special Envoy on Climate Change John Kerry also paid a visit to the Indian capital. A number of crucial issues will be discussed during the course of Blinken's visit, the fallout of the US withdrawal from Afghanistan and the impact of territorial gains made by the Taliban will dominate discussions as well. The Indo-Pacific and cooperation in that region will also be on the agenda, and the two sides are expected to explore ways and means to deepen their collaboration on defence. This will cover policy exchanges, exercises, defence transfers and technology. India and the US are also likely to take the Quad vaccine initiative forward. That's to enable the supply of vaccines produced in India from early 2022 to countries in the Indo-Pacific region. US officials say that Blinken and Austin look forward to hosting their Indian counterparts in the annual US-India 2+2 ministerial dialogue. That's coming up later this year. India's ambassador to the United States will also return to New Delhi to participate in the high-level meetings. Well, let's go live now to WION correspondent Susan Tehrani, who's in New York for us. Susan, thanks very much for joining us. What's on the agenda for these meetings?
Well, a host of issues, as you mentioned. India is a very important Indo-Pacific and regional partner for the United States. And apart from bilateral issues that really these two countries have an annual and ongoing cooperation on, which is counterterrorism, cyber defense and security, and the upcoming annual meeting, the high-level ministerial meeting later this year that you alluded to, really Afghanistan is going to play front and center as U.S. troop withdrawal is near complete by September 11th and August 31st. Really, the issue of regional security and the concern of the rise of Islamist terrorism in the region is going to be discussed during this meeting. Definitely for India, the region of Kashmir is very important. The rise of terrorism, Islamist terrorism in that region, and for the United States, the security vacuum that's going to be there is going to also be raised during this meeting, according to U.S. officials and on calls of backgrounder from the White House last night. Partnership in boosting India's production and export of COVID vaccines, not just as part of the Quad summit earlier this year between President Biden and his counterparts, but also bilaterally between the two sides. That's also going to be on the agenda, considering the fact the pandemic is alive and well, for a lack of a better term, and also climate change, something that can't be undermined. It's also going to be discussed, and we're going to be hearing a lot more on that issue as well. All of that aside, the issue of China, the elephant in the room, really considering the fact that the U.S. administration has really focused on China in its partnership with Indo-Pacific countries and diplomacy in that region. It hopes to really pick up where its predecessors left off and bring in China as a major partner in what it calls combating China's quote-unquote aggressive behavior.
So certainly a lot on the agenda there for US Secretary of State Antony Blinken as he arrives in the Indian capital. Susan, what's the significance of the timing of this visit?
The timing is so significant on a number of parts. First of all, you have the Number two, at the State Department, Wendy Sherman just on Sunday meeting her Chinese counterpart in China and saying that while the United States is not looking for a confrontation, she really had a laundry list of grievances that she set forth in her discussion with her Chinese counterpart. So you have Sherman in China on that front, and then you have Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense in Singapore, another Indo-Pacific country, really talking about how it hopes to garner support of Indo-Pacific regional countries in countering China, again saying, while we're not looking for confrontation, but the issue of South China Sea is very important to us. Another, high-ranking U.S. official in the region, you have Antony Blinken, visiting India. And then you also have this significant timing of U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. Again, front and center during these talks between Antony Blinken. And what's very noteworthy that we're not really hearing in the news is as Antony Blinken will be getting ready to meet with Prime Minister Modi and his Indian counterpart, Jaishankar, the Indian External Affairs Minister, we are going to be hearing news that the Pakistani National Security Advisor, Moed Yousaf, will be landing here in Washington and meeting his counterpart, Jake Sullivan, and discussing not only Afghanistan, but according to the press release, also, quote-unquote, regional issues. So that'll sort of happen simultaneously. You have a Pakistani high-ranking official here in Washington. You have U.S. officials in India talking about Afghanistan. So we'll have to see, what comes out of that. But a noteworthy development, nonetheless, timing very significant.
All right, Susan Tehrani there, previewing the visit of the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken to India. All right, let's move on to the United States now, and hearings by a US House of Representatives Select Committee on the 6th of January Capitol Hill riots kick off today. Voice of America's Steve Reddish explains the committee's work and the political controversy surrounding it.
Law enforcement officers who defended the U.S. Capitol will be the first to testify in front of the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on Congress's home. But the committee's existence is only widening the political split between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats originally proposed an independent commission based on the success of the commission that delivered a widely accepted investigation into the 2001 9/11 terrorist attacks on the U.S.
The commission was going to be a body with much more clout.
Norm Ornstein is a political scientist with the American Enterprise Institute. He said an independent commission would have the full force of Congress and the White House behind it.
It would have had a wider range of members and very possibly would have been able to get more muscle in terms of its ability to get witnesses and the important information out there.
Despite getting agreement on nearly all their demands, Senate Republicans blocked a vote for an independent commission in late May.
I urge my colleagues to vote aye.
Democratic Speaker of the House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi then proposed a select committee to investigate. Republicans accused Democrats of wanting a predetermined outcome.
Making sure that it never happens again requires a fully bipartisan solution, not a partisan committee, rigged from the start.
Along with 7 Democrats, Pelosi appointed Republican Liz Cheney, who was ousted from her party's leadership post because of her open defiance of the false narrative touted by President Trump that the 2020 election was stolen from him.
Some of the other Republicans who have been outspoken on this are under enormous pressure from within their own party not to participate. It takes a great deal of courage, which Liz Cheney has shown, to go against your party and your party leader.
As the minority party leader, Republican Kevin McCarthy was allowed 5 committee selections. Pelosi rejected 2 of them, Jim Jordan of Ohio and Jim Banks of Indiana.
They have made statements and taken actions that I think would impact the integrity of the commission, of the committee, the work of the committee.
Pelosi has created a sham process. Unless Speaker Pelosi reverses course and seats all 5 Republicans, we will not participate.
McCarthy's January 6th phone call to then-President Trump, purportedly imploring the president to call off his supporters attacking the Capitol, could become part of the committee's probe.
He's trying to give himself cover for saying, this is not a legitimate committee, so I'm not going to cooperate.
Pelosi appointed a second Republican to the panel. Adam Kinzinger and Cheney were the only Republicans to vote with Democrats to create the committee to investigate the attack. Steve Reddish, VOA News, Washington.
Let's stay in Washington now, and in a meeting at the Oval Office on Monday, US President Joe Biden and Iraq's Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi announced the end of the US combat mission in Iraq by the end of this year. US forces, though, will still operate in Iraq in an advisory role. The move comes after 18 years after US troops were sent into Iraq by then US President George W. Bush.
Our 2 countries.
U.S. President Joe Biden and Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi sealed an agreement on Monday to formally end the U.S. combat mission in Iraq by the end of 2021, more than 18 years after U.S. troops were sent to the country. With the withdrawal of the last American forces in Afghanistan set for the end of August, Biden will be completing U.S. combat missions in the 2 wars that former President George W. Bush began under his watch.
Our role in Iraq will be as a dealing with it's just to be available to continue to train, to assist, to help, and to deal with ISIS as it arrives. But we are not going to be by the end of the year in a combat mission.
Prime Minister Kadhimi praised Iraq's current relationship with the U.S.
Today our relation is stronger than ever. I'm looking forward to work with you, Mr. President, to bring our 2 countries more closer for benefit of Iraq and the United States.
There are currently 2,500 U.S. troops in Iraq, and in recent years, American forces focused on defeating and then countering the remnants of Islamic State militants. A U.S.-led coalition invaded Iraq in March 2003, based on charges that then Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein's government possessed weapons of mass destruction. But such weapons were never found.
Tunisia's young democracy is being plunged into what's being called a deep political crisis. With the army's help, the president has sacked the prime minister, dismissed the defence minister and acting minister of justice, and even suspended parliaments. Opponents are labelling it a coup, but President Kais Saied disagrees.
البعض يوم أمس عن انقلاب لا أعرف في أي كلية حقوق أو علوم قانونية درسوا كيف يكون الانقلاب بناء على الدستور. هذا تطبيق لنص الدستور، والفصل 80 من الدستور منح رئيس الجمهورية الحق في اتخاذ التدابير التي يراها لازمة في صورة وجود خطر داهم.
Troops were reportedly deployed on the main streets of Tunisia's capital ahead of that announcement by the president, and rivals have condemned him for attacking democracy in their view. Meanwhile, in his first statement since being sacked, dismissed Tunisian Prime Minister Hesham Mechichi has said that he will comply with the decision and accept the next Prime Minister chosen by the President. Supporters of President Kais Saied also poured out onto the streets of the capital, tens of thousands of people heading to Tunis, which in turn triggered clashes outside the parliament, which has been ordered to remain shut for 30 days. Soldiers blockaded the assembly in Tunis, while the president's supporters hurled stones and insults. The leader of the Ennahda party has staged a sit-in to protest being barred entry to that complex. The country, which is often celebrated as a success story of the Arab Spring, is once again caught in the middle of political and economic turmoil. This dramatic move by the president comes after a prolonged deadlock between the president, the premier and the leader of the Ennahda party. Even though the constitution enshrines a parliamentary democracy, it largely limits presidential powers to security and diplomacy. Now, French fries aren't exactly a delicacy, right? Well, not if you're in New York City and are on the hunt for the world's most expensive French fries. So how much would you be willing to pay for French fries? Well, hold that thought, because in our next report, we'll show you what goes into making French fries that cost $200 a plate. Take a look.
Hot chips, finger chips, fries, frite, steak fries, and if you're really fancy, pommes frites, or good old French fries. Call them whatever you like, but thin slices of potato, deep fried, and garnish with any kind of topping is a comfort food for most of us. But on New York's decadent culinary streets, this humble appetizer has now made it to the Guinness World Records. Lo and behold, the world's most expensive French fries. A plate of these will cost you a whopping $200 at New York's famous Serendipity 3 restaurant. So what makes an otherwise common dish, which is a fixture on most fast food menus, the most expensive in the world? Well, these fries come with a rich, thick cheese-dipping sauce. Bear with us, there's more. They are served on a luxurious baccarat crystal plate. There's even a lovely orchid on the side, perhaps to justify the price tag. And nothing but the best high-quality chipperbeck potatoes to make them. And of course, the magic ingredient designed to shoot up any price tag, truffle.
Truffle, truffle, and truffle inside these fries. So, in other words, we have truffle oil, we have the fresh black summer truffles. The Mornay sauce, in other words, it's a cheese sauce, is meant to be a dippy sauce, which is infused with truffles in 1,000 different ways too. So, truffle is the main star here.
These Uberlux fries cannot be called French fries, oh no. They are called the crème de la crème pommes frites. And don't be fooled into thinking these are an entree. Yup, $200 for a side of fries. The chef tells you why.
So it's a thrice cooked process. So we do a first blanch inside Dom Perignon and a French champagne vinegar. We'll cool it down, and then we will then do the first fry, which is at 325 degrees, and then we will cool that down and finish it off at 375 degrees. So this process is really going to ensure that it has a crispy exterior and a fluffy interior.
Even the oil used to cook them is a delicacy. They're fried in pure goose fat to give them a nutty flavor with complexity, says the chef. And of course, seasoned with truffle oil and truffle salt. Wait, there's more truffle involved. These fries are then topped with shaved black summer truffles from Umbria in Italy. And here's the finishing touch of gold, literally. The dish is topped off with a sprinkling of 23-carat edible gold dust. And there you have it, a Guinness World Record on a plate. Time for a chef's kiss, you think?
This is our 10th. We have everything from the world's largest wedding cake, the world's most expensive ice cream sundae, the world's most expensive burger, the world's largest cup of hot cocoa. We've done a lot.
They say there are two kinds of people in this world, those that like their fries with tomato ketchup and those that like them with mayonnaise. Now there seems to be another kind, those that like their fries sprinkled with gold and topped with Italian truffle. What kind are you? Bureau Report, WION World is One.
They better be pretty good for $200. Well, that's all we've got time for on today's WION Live Broadcast. For more global news and updates, stay tuned to WION World is One.